Hello, everyone, and welcome to Module 1 of today's training. Do not save for the rainy day. I'm sure many of you are wondering what kind of training topic that is. But it's true. As a financial planner, I always tell my clients there's nothing like a rainy day. You must label your expenses, you must label your goals, you must target your savings. If you come to me for a consultation and I ask you if you have savings and you say yes, you have savings, and for example, you say, oh, you put aside 20,000 every month or 100,000 naira every month. I was like, oh, wow, that's good. What are you saving for? And you tell me you're saving for the rainy day. I'll just tell you straight up that you're not saving. You're maybe saving money to buy a pair of shoes or saving money to dash someone later on. You see, if you do not label your goals, if you do not label your savings goals, you will just be wasting your money. I'll give you a good example. You might say, okay, I'm saving money for an emergency, and something happens in February, and you have saved 100,000 naira, and this emergency costs you 80,000 naira, and you spend it. Then March comes around, and you find out, and you get into another fix that requires 100,000 naira. And you find out that 80,000 naira you spent in February, you could have done without. In fact, that it wasn't even really an emergency. The reason you fell into that trap was because you did not label your funds, you did not label your savings. So if you say you're setting aside money for an emergency fund, you must determine from the beginning what qualify as emergencies. So you can say, oh, I'm going to put aside 20,000 naira every month for medical emergencies. If that situation is not a medical emergency, I'm not going to touch this fund because nobody can see the future. What if a medical emergency does arise? Where will I get the funds from? So some other casual emergencies might emerge that might make you panic. But when you know that there's no money for them, you begin to think out how best you can manage them. That's the beauty about having targeted savings. So I needed to explain the training topic to you. So when you save money, because at the end of the day, when you save, you are depriving yourself of a lot of goodies. That money you are saving, make sure you label it appropriately. But that brings us to the question, how do you save? Where do savings come from? And that leads us to the fundamentals of personal finance. The very first tool of personal finance is a budget. How many of us have budgets? For many people I've found, they don't write down their budgets. If you ask them, they'll say, well, I don't really write down budget, Sha. I just know how the money will be going. And when the money comes, I know I have an idea. And that's where the mistake starts. The advantages of a budget cannot be overemphasized. There are so many. For one, a budget helps you focus. A budget shows you where exactly your money is going. A budget keeps you in control. A budget opens your eyes to how mad you have been with expenses if you had not been writing one. So let's take a simple example. There's a brand of chewing gum that costs, I think it's 250 naira. Although I hear it's increased a bit. So let's assume you buy this chewing gum every day, or at least 6 times a week. 250 naira. The reason you must buy it is because once you open it, it melts. So if you don't chew it, you'll waste it. So if you were to buy 6 packs of this chewing gum every week, that means you have spent 1,500 naira on chewing gums for the week. And if you were to repeat this exercise for 52 weeks in a year, you will spend 78,000 naira on chewing gum. For many of us listening who have children in primary schools, this amount of money can pay your child's school fees for 1 or 2 terms. But if you were not writing it down, you wouldn't feel you were spending so much money. You would say, oh, well, it's just 250 now. What's 250? But these monies add up. But a budget, when you have a budget shows these things up. Another good thing about having a budget is that it helps you plan and organize your thoughts. A budget shows you exactly how much you're earning. So it shows you clearly that you are not as big a boy as you thought you were. You're not as wealthy as you thought. Because when you start allocating the costs, you find out that there really isn't enough money. So a budget helps you see all of that. A budget helps you live a better life. I always say to people, if you do not plan to enjoy, then your life is probably going to be miserable. You can enjoy life. You don't have to earn so much money. Plan it and you can afford it. Plan it and at some point you will be able to have a nice life. So you earn a salary. You can say to yourself, I'll go to the spa. But when you look at the cost of going to a spa, you say, okay, I can't afford it monthly, but I can afford it once a quarter. You start having those kind of negotiations with your budget, and it makes you a smarter person. Now, when you have made all of these monies or saved all of these monies, it is important that you put them in the right vehicle. And that leads us to investing. The first tip I gave on our group was you save before you invest. And the reason is simple. Savings, the primary goal of savings is to protect your capital, while the primary goal of investing is to grow your capital. So if you start with investment, not knowing that every investment has a risk element, then you're making a huge mistake. So remember, after you have struggled and saved that money and you want it to grow, that is when you start thinking about investment. And there are several investment vehicles, so many, several instruments that you can invest in. But you need to now be very careful and ensure that when you are investing or saving, you are matching those assets with your liabilities. What does this mean? I've struggled to save so much money. Now I want this money to grow. Okay, so I buy a plot of land, for instance. Is the plot of land the best form of investment at that time? When you have expenses that are recurrent. So you need to be very careful. What are you doing with your money? Are you investing it or are you saving it? So finally, let's talk about some myths in savings and investment and personal finance. The first one is, I don't earn enough money to save. I've heard a lot of people saying, in fact, the common thing here is beg, I beg, I beg. Not be who don't chop belleful go save. The bad news is, whether you chop belleful or not, if you do not save, hunger, severe hunger is waiting for you in front. Whatever you earn, you can save from. You can live, in fact, one of the cardinal truths is, you can live on less than you earn. And that's the truth. You can live on far less than you are spending right now. The second myth is, you have to be rich to invest. In fact, investment is for rich people. People like us, we don't invest. I hear that a lot as well. That is not true. Start with what you have. And there are different investment types. Just start. I've always heard some of my clients say, oh, well, I don't really bother about money, Sha. It's my husband that manages all the money, so that's not the one doing me. I can't be bothering about. I run the home. My husband manages the money. Fundamental error. If there's anything you're going to take away from this training today, it is that in this life that we are living, everybody is per head. Life is per head. Everyone is responsible at some point for himself. You need to understand financial planning as an individual. Even if your spouse manages your funds, you need to understand what exactly is going on there. And then I hear people say, oh, nothing bad will happen to me. Oh, I rebuke bad news. I don't need to save. I'll be fine. I trust that nothing bad will happen to me. If you're in this category, please wake up. If you have a friend who is in this category, please wake him or her up. Because the truth of the matter is, everyone will experience some bit of difficulty at some point. How prepared are you for it? So to summarize this model, I'll just remind us, don't save for the rainy day. Label your savings, label your goals, ensure that your savings are targeted. There are so many myths, so many money mistakes. Ensure that you are not making them. And finally, ensure you have a decent budget and that you follow your budget. We will listen to the questions at the end of the training. Thank you.